This movie tells a story about four emotionally damaged African American veterans. Through stilted dialogue, we discover that the four surviving soldiers have returned to find and repatriate the body of their fallen leader and to find millions of dollars in buried gold. If you feel like this story sounds familiar, then you are right. It's done before. What director Spike Lee is tackling here is nothing new. The only difference is that he infuses his film with African American faces and boldly passionate intent that cannot be denied. There are also references to Black Lives Matter that had to have been included prior to the recent protest. Yet, this movie is a poor vehicle for these ideas. Clocking in at 2.5 hours, it feels long after its first labored minutes. The problem is that the director sometimes let his passion get the best of him. This movie is well-intentioned, but wholly messy and even clumsily edited and filmed. The flashback scenes are just plain odd and totally uninvolving, using grainy photography with the same actors playing younger versions of themselves. It does not help as well that the director decides to use Marvin Gaye's 1971 album What's Going On as the background music for his film. He definitely needs more creativity and a little less obviousness that would have helped in selecting the soundtrack for this film. This movie cannot seem to get a firm grasp of the narrative. The setup is a slog to get through, consisting mostly of banter and background story to develop our four main characters, but the result is scattershot and the dialogue never fully believable. It takes a full 90 minutes for the treasure hunt to finally begin, and when it does, it feels non-consequential, with inevitable backstabbing, dubious decisions on the part of the characters, and predictably bland outcomes. At some point, without even the word landmine mentioned, and more than a few minutes before it even occurred, most audiences would know that one of these characters was about to step on one of those mines and have his body ripped to shreds, because the setup and shot selection is too obvious not to know. The mention of landmines is an obvious bit of foreshadowing that hangs over the movie for the next half hour or so, as they head into the jungle to find Norman's body and the gold. At this point, the movie takes a belated turn into thriller territory, changing from a reflective story about reckoning with the past into a muddled revenge story of sorts. The complications that the characters encounter in locating and retrieving the gold become increasingly contrived, moving the story further away from its early grounded feel. Everything about this movie is off. The dialogue remains a problem throughout, in that the characters do not talk like people. Instead, they work to help the movie make its points by announcing everything they are thinking and feeling. In one scene, Paul's son, who is also on the trip, goes to a bar and strikes up a conversation with a French social worker. This begins 2 cringe-worthy minutes of actors struggling to bring life to something dead on the page. Scene after scene is like this, lacking realism or tension, with none of the honest give and take of a real conversation. In the end, the movie's emotional power ends up jumbled and unfocused. Well, it's obvious that we do not recommend this movie.